Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're doing something a bit different. We're diving straight into what might be one of the most, let's say, comprehensive psychological profiles ever written.
But it's ancient wisdom we're talking about.
Exactly. It's from the Bhagavad Gita Chapter 16. And it maps human nature into these two really distinct camps, the divine and the demoniac.
The title itself is The Yoga of Discerning the Divine and Demoniac Natures. Krishna is really laying out an analysis, almost a forensic one, of the human condition here.
Right. And this isn't just some old philosophical text gathering dust. It feels like an incredibly clear, almost like a diagnostic tool for understanding ourselves.
It really can be used that way.
So our mission for this deep dive for you listening is to pull out a practical framework from this, something you can use for self-introspection.
Yeah, understand the qualities that actually lead towards liberation. The text calls it divine wealth.
Divine wealth, right. And then contrasting that with the stuff, the behaviors that lead down the path to, bondage and suffering.
It presents it as a choice, really, laid out very clearly.
So where do we start? If we're looking at this path to liberation, the divine qualities, or Sampad, as you said.
Well, the very first quality mentioned is key.
Yeah.
It sets the stage for everything else.
Okay, I'm ready. I might have guessed, something like charity or maybe devotion.
You'd think so, right?
Yeah.
But no, it starts with fearlessness, apayam.
Fearlessness. Huh. Why is that the cornerstone? That seems unexpected.
It's one of those profound, maybe counterintuitive insights the Gita offers. See, true courage here isn't about not facing external danger. It's about knowing the self.
Knowing the self. How does that lead to fearlessness?
If you have that firm knowledge, that deep conviction of who you truly are, which is, distinct from your physical body or your temporary situation, then fear it loses its grip.
Ah, okay. So it brings a kind of inner stability, mental peace.
Exactly. External threats become secondary, almost peripheral, when you're grounded in that understanding. So fearlessness is like the prerequisite mental state. It allows you the space to cultivate all the other divine qualities.
That completely reframes it. Okay. So if that's the solid foundation, what builds upon it? What about internal integrity?
Right. The next cluster really deals with that inner truthfulness. You've got purity of heart, that's sincerity, honesty, being transparent.
Okay.
Then steadfastness and knowledge in yoga. This isn't a one-off thing. It's about continuous devotion to wisdom.
Like a lifelong commitment.
Yes, and that includes the reflective study of scriptures, regularly engaging with wisdom texts. It's about keeping that internal honesty sharp through persistent learning.
So internal honesty plus intellectual commitment. Got it. Then how does that translate outwards into action?
Well, the next group focuses on discipline and sort of self-governance in the world.
This is where I had a question looking through it. It lists both self-control and austerity. They sound similar. What's the difference?
That's a really good question, actually. They are related but distinct. Think of self-control, dhamma, as defense. It's about restraining the senses, preventing, external temptations from pulling you off course.
Okay, like guarding the gates.
Exactly. Now, austerity, kalpas, is more like the offense. It's active, voluntary self-discipline. You apply it consciously to your body, your mind, your speech.
For what purpose, though?
For purification. So, self-control might be avoiding the cake shop altogether. Austerity might be choosing to fast, or choosing to speak only words that are truthful and beneficial, even when it's hard.
I see. Restraint versus active refinement. Okay, makes sense.
They serve different roles in that process of polishing the self.
Right. So moving on from self-discipline to how you interact with others, the ethical dimension.
Yes, here we see the core social virtues. Nonviolence, ahimsa, and thought, word, and deed. Very important.
And truthfulness, satyam. But there's a qualifier, isn't there?
Yes. Critically, it's truth that is also pleasant and beneficial, not just blunt, potentially harmful truth.
That's a nuanced point. And straightforwardness, arjavam.
Simplicity. No crookedness, no hidden agendas, just being direct and honest in your dealings.
Okay. And the final group of divine qualities seems focused on empathy.
That's right. Qualities fostering harmony, absence of anger, akrodha, forgiveness, shama, patience even towards those who wrong you.
That's a tough one.
Definitely. Then compassion, real goodwill towards all beings, and charity or generosity, dhanam, giving selflessly without expecting anything back.
And one last internal check.
The absence of covetousness, aluptavam, freedom from that grasping, excessive desire for material things.
Wow, that's quite a blueprint for a virtuous life.
It is.
Yeah.
And importantly, Krishna tells Arjuna, and by extension the listener, that he already possesses these divine traits. It's meant as encouragement.
Right. It makes it feel achievable, not just some impossible ideal. It's a path you can actually walk.
Precisely. An attainable goal.
Okay, let's flip the coin now, because this is where the contrast gets really sharp, analytically speaking. If the divine nature is rooted in knowing the self,
Then the demoniac nature, the Asuric nature, is rooted in profound self-ignorance. It manifests primarily as the false ego.
and this path leads directly to bondage.
Yes, entanglement and suffering. Verse 4 lists the core traits, and it's striking how they start.
What are they?
It begins with hypocrisy or ostentation, dhamma. It's all about the outward show, the performance, the curated image.
Followed immediately by
Arrogance, darpa, and conceit, atmana, which are directly fueled by that deep-seated false ego, ankara.
it's like a chain reaction.
Exactly. And those three, hypocrisy, arrogance, false ego, they inevitably ignite uncontrolled anger, krodha, harshness, parusham, and just fundamental ignorance, ashananta.
That focus on hypocrisy, ostentation, the false ego, it sounds incredibly disturbingly modern, like a critique of, online culture or constant social comparison.
It resonates deeply, doesn't it? The Gita seems to be warning about this very human tendency centuries ago, but it goes deeper than just outward behavior.
How so? What's the underlying philosophy or mentality that drives this?
This is maybe one of the most arresting parts of the chapter. Krishna describes their actual worldview. They fundamentally lack a moral compass.
Meaning?
They literally don't know or don't accept the difference between right action and wrong action, between purity and impurity, truth and untruth.
And how do they justify that lack of a compass?
By adopting a specific, almost nihilistic philosophy. Verse 8 says they claim the world itself is unreal, asatyam, that it has no foundation, apradishtam, no divine controller, anishvaram.
Whoa. So, no God, no moral basis. How do they think it came about then?
Simply produced by lust, kama haituka. Essentially, they argue the universe is just an accident born in desire, so there's no inherent meaning or moral order.
Goodness. So if the universe is just random lust, then their logic follows that the highest good is pursuing their own lusts. It's like a self-fulfilling destructive prophecy.
You've hit it exactly. If there's no objective moral standard, why restrain yourself? This worldview becomes the direct justification for insatiable desire and greed. Verses 10 through 12 paint a vivid picture. They're consumed by endless lust, kama, obsessed with accumulating wealth, artha, often by unethical or unlawful means.
And the goal is purely
Sense gratification, kama upaboga prama, just fulfilling desires endlessly. It's not about finding satisfaction. The accumulation itself, the power it brings, becomes the drug.
And naturally, the ego inflates to match that accumulation, creating this bubble of entitlement.
An impenetrable one. The text even gives us their internal monologue, the constant chant of this deluded ego. Verses 13 to 15 are chilling.
What do they say to themselves?
I am the Lord Ishvara. I am the enjoyer, Bogi. I am successful, Siddha, powerful, Balavan, happy, Sukhi. I am rich, well-born. Who else is there like me?
Wow.
I will sacrifice, I will give charity, I will rejoice. But it's all performative, driven by that ego. Life isn't seen as service or growth, but a zero-sum game they have to constantly win.
That relentless cycle, the showiness leading to nihilism, justifying the greed, inflating the ego, it has to lead somewhere terrible. What are the ultimate consequences?
Catastrophic, both internally and externally. They end up bewildered, vimohita, by their own ego, strength, pride, lust, and anger.
And this impacts how they see others.
Profoundly. They become actively hateful and envious, Bizanta, particularly towards the divine principle, both the spark of divinity within themselves, which they deny, and when they see genuine goodness or spiritual inclination in others.
So they attack what they refuse to cultivate in themselves.
Precisely. And the text describes their ultimate destiny, their trajectory through rebirth, as being repeatedly cast into conditions, into wombs, that reinforce that same demoniac nature. They get caught in a loop of their own making.
Bound by the very traits they embrace. That's a powerful, almost severe diagnosis.
It is. And Krishna doesn't just leave it at listing traits. He distills the essence of this destructive path down to three core forces.
Right, he calls them the three gates to degradation or to hell.
This is the crucial practical warning. He declares that three great vices are the very gateways leading the soul towards darkness, towards naraka.
And those three are?
Lust, kam, anger, krodha, and greed, lobha.
Okay, lust, anger, greed. But we saw other negative traits. Arrogance, hypocrisy, ignorance. Why are these three singled out as the gates? What makes them so fundamental?
That's a great question. Think of them as the engine of the whole demoniac machine. Lust is the initial fuel, that insatiable desire for sense gratification that kicks everything off, that justifies the nihilism.
Okay, the driving desire.
Greed is the action, the relentless pursuit, the hoarding of resources and power needed to attempt to satisfy that endless lust.
The engine's output.
Right. And anger is the inevitable defense mechanism. It's the violent reaction when that lust is frustrated, or when the greedy accumulation is challenged, or when the ego feels threatened.
Ah, so they're the active forces that block any potential for cultivating the divine.
Exactly. They are the operational dynamics of the demoniac nature. If you're consumed by these three, there's simply no room for qualities like forgiveness, compassion, or self-control to take root.
The gravity of that is.
Yeah.
It's undeniable. And Krishna explicitly tells Arjuna to abandon them.
Emphatically. He says the person who is freed from these three gates acts for the welfare of their own soul and ultimately attains the supreme destination. Escaping these is paramount.
So, chapter 16 lays out the two paths, the divine and the demoniac, and flags these three major dangers. But then it connects this to the bigger picture, right? How do we navigate this in practice?
Yes, it immediately addresses the practical question. Okay, I see the map, I see the dangers, but how do I decide what to do in a specific situation, especially a difficult one? What's my compass?
Right. If I know I need to aim for, say, fearlessness and try to avoid greed, what's the guiding principle day to day? How do I make the right choice?
And Krishna gives a very clear answer here. He states that the scriptures, meaning established timeless wisdom traditions and ethical codes, are the authority, the guide, pramanam, for determining what should and shouldn't be done.
So it's not just about relying on your own feelings or intellect in the moment.
No, quite the opposite. That's the critical final lesson, really. It's a direct warning against a kind of moral relativism, against just acting based on what feels good or what your own limited, potentially ego-driven perspective dictates right now.
You need an external reference point, an anchor in established wisdom.
Exactly. The warning is stark. Anyone who ignores the injunctions of Scripture, who acts according to their own whims, kamakarata, driven by personal desire,
What happens to them?
they attain neither perfection, siddhim, nor happiness, sukham, nor the supreme goal, parangatim. You need the guide.
So putting it all together, chapter 16 acts as this incredibly practical manual. It says, here's the path to flourishing, cultivate this divine wealth. Here's the path to suffering, consciously shun these demoniac tendencies.
And use established wisdom, the Scriptures, as your reliable guide for action, not just your fleeting impulses or desires.
It holds up two mirrors, doesn't it? One showing who you could become through conscious effort, and the other showing the potential outcome if you just let those base instincts run wild.
Beautifully put. That contrast between purity of heart on one side and self-conceit or false ego on the other really defines the whole chapter.
So we've covered this list, nearly 30 divine qualities, all aimed at counteracting the destructive power of those three gates: lust, anger, and greed.
Which leads us to the final thought for you, the listener, to maybe ponder. We live such a fast-paced world, right? Constantly pulled in different directions. Considering the insatiable desires and the powerful ego the text warns us about, and looking back at that list of divine qualities, what single quality from that divine list, maybe it's steadfastness in knowledge, maybe it's forgiveness, maybe absence of covetousness, maybe something else, which one do you feel would offer you the greatest, most immediate defense against those three gates of lust, anger, and greed in your own life right now, today?
That's a powerful question, a challenge to identify our most needed shield. We really encourage you to keep reflecting on this ancient map, this framework for navigating modern life. It offers so much. We'll see you on the next deep dive.